Gospel according to Mark, the 5th chapter. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came, and when he saw him, Jairus fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come, lay your hands on her, so that she may be well and live." So Jesus went with him. And a large crowd was following him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all she had. And she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. For she thought, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately, her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who had done it. The woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before Jesus and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." And while he was still speaking, some people came from Jairus' house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion. Oh, people were weeping, wailing loudly. And when Jesus had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. Well, Jesus put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, in Aramaic, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk around. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement. And he strictly ordered them that no one should know about this, and told them to give the child something to eat. The Gospel of the Lord. I wonder, have you ever experienced a time when you were just caught in like a tug of war of time? Between priorities, I mean, each one needing your attention, and you wind up stressed out and distracted, and what do I do first? They both seem so important. Jesus gets stopped, and maybe we'd say slowed down, between two desperate needs. Even two matters of life and death, really. But Jesus has no fear. He's not distracted by a delay. In fact, he stops to pay more attention to the person who's delaying it. When an unnamed woman in the crowd touches his cloak in hope of healing, Jesus was already on the move to see about a dying child. Now, that important leader of the synagogue, Jairus, has already begged Jesus to come. But Mark tells us Jesus notices the power that transfers from him to someone in that crowd, someone who touched him on purpose. And Jesus is not casual about it. Healing has happened, and he intends to complete the gift. When he asks who touched him, usually, remember, it's the other way around. He touches someone, but someone touched him. The unnamed woman who had been dying, this powerless person, comes to Jesus, and it says she tells him the whole truth. Jesus already knows he has given the gift of power to someone for a purpose. He knows it's already taken place. But he takes time to meet with her. He wants to give her not only that healing of body, but more well-being that she needs, much more. He spoke with her eye to eye and named her daughter. In other words, you're a member of God's family, he's saying to her. And as a member of that family, she now has title to dignity and worth for her own person. Jesus wouldn't let her go without the full blessing. A commendation for her faith. Yes, your faith has made you well. But it's her trusting that Jesus could heal her. And then he sends her with those beautiful words we all love to hear, go in peace. And he adds, be healed of your disease. In other words, live the life God has given you. You are free. We never know a name for her. Jesus knows her face to face, and he names her daughter, the member of a family, and blesses her on her way. Now, there's still the other urgent matter of another daughter. Likewise, we never learn her name, but we know her father's name, Jairus, the leader in the synagogue. And after this delay, Jesus and Jairus hear the terrible news. Something's already happened. The child is dead. Well, you might think Jairus would be mad at Jesus for waiting. He's certainly unprepared for this news. But look, Jesus is prepared, and he speaks decisively. He speaks directly to this father, and he takes command of the situation. And what does he say? First words out of his mouth, don't be afraid. Do not fear. Only believe. That is, trust me on this. Jesus is prepared, and he tells this shocked father, I know you're afraid, but you're with me. So have no fear, and just keep on trusting. Now, look, first half of the story is this woman, and second half of the story is going to be about the child, but who's in the center? Jesus is in the center of both of the stories. He turns from the unnamed woman and calls Jairus to go directly with him. Imagine what Jairus must be feeling as he arrives. The mourners are already there. They're weeping and wailing, as was the custom. They're making a lot of noise. And there's no peace in this house. But Jesus steps right in. He declares the child to be sleeping, and the mourners laugh at him in ridicule. But Jesus is in charge, and he clears the house. He has everybody else leave. The parents and the 3 witnesses, Peter, James, and John, go to see the daughter. She's lying quietly on the bed. She might even look dead. Jesus moves very gently toward her, simply takes her hand and speaks to her in Aramaic, which was the common language spoken after the exile there. Jesus speaks directly to this child. Talitha, come. Little girl, get up. And she does it. She responds. She walks around. She leaves the deathbed. Jesus continues to command the scene. After telling everyone to keep this quiet, as if they could, he makes sure to say, feed this child. In other words, she's alive. She needs to eat. Let her have her life. Now, these stories have something in common, of course. The healings. They have females in common, both of whom were powerless over their illnesses. And even though the daughter, the child, came from a powerful family because the father had power, the unnamed woman has no power, but both are the concerns of Jesus. What does Mark want us to hear? The Gospel of Mark, like the other Gospels, wants us all to hear that we can trust Jesus. Wants us to hear that he takes time to connect with this woman who really wouldn't have been the object of hope or help. And she had to be afraid, just as we are. But Jesus pays attention. He noticed her, and he'll notice you and me. With these 2 stories and others, the gospel wants us to be assured Jesus wants life and abundance for us. He will not leave us as he finds us. Young or old, rich or poor, important or unknown, Jesus does not discriminate. He has time for each one. He takes time for each one. He values every life, and God, our Creator, has made every single life. Jesus knows what is already true. Our God knows that we belong to him forever. Jesus comes where the people are. He walks among them. We walk with him. And as the other Gospels, along with Mark, want us to know, there's no question about this. There's no maybe. Jesus comes to this world for us, with us, beside us, and always welcoming us. We get to share the good news. Hallelujah.